Hello and welcome to the Solve Network. My name is Shane Borza and I'll be your host. Along with my co-founder Benjamin Goss, we'd like to welcome you. Our mission is to provide solutions and create a network of experts for you to learn from. Now this show is a little different than most podcasts, as it is actually a live call held twice a month. If you can, please join us on the first and third Thursday of each month so you can get your questions answered live and direct from the experts themselves. If you're an expert, please contact me at shaneborza.com so you can be a part of the network. And now, here's our show.
Scene one, Apple, take one.
Hi, I'm Shane Borza, your content creator coach. I have 2 books on filmmaking, Film Notes, where you learn to write, direct, and produce, and the Film Notes Workbook, where you can learn checklists and paperwork to streamline creating your content. Available at shaneborza.com. I also have filmmaker resources like the Paperwork Bundle with over 300 documents, the Sound Effects Bundle with almost 3,000 files, and the Music Bundle featuring 900 tracks of all genres. Want to build your professional credits? Become an associate producer and get listed on IMDb. Let me help you get your art out into the world.
Scene one, Apple, take one.
That's another great thing that I hadn't ever thought of. But I mean, obviously the word therapy is in aromatherapy, but never thought of it as aromatherapy. And so that was a great highlight too. One of the things I wanted to also ask you is you were kind of talking about like, well, if you only have 2 things in your basket, like that's where you're at. So we're all kind of in our homes right now, and it's difficult to kind of go out or maybe, you know, the local place where you normally would go is closed. So how would you recommend people try some aromatherapy now? And is there any place like a website or something that you might want to recommend, or a certain brand or like a starter kit or something? So if someone was interested in getting started, what are like some essential oils to start with and a place maybe to get them?
So right now, a lot of your aromatherapy is a much larger industry than it used to be, but we have to be careful because it's not regulated, and there's good and bad to that. But using your pure essential oils, so making sure it's authentic, number one. So everything that I'm talking about, I have evidence-based backing that up. It's on a pure essential oil that's not adulterated, which means it's not a fragrance. If it's $2 at your local store, it's not real. So price is going to dictate, and it's going to be interesting to see where prices are in the coming year, because, you know, with the fires in Australia, some of the other climate devastations going on, it affects crops. It affects our industry as well. So a lot of your aromatherapy companies, they are stocked right now. There's several, you know, that I use. I have them in my store, my online store. And then there's several other companies, and they are going through very strict cleansing. They should be going through very strict cleansing. So I know I just actually got 2 orders in today of stocking some more oils, because my phone's been ringing off the hook for some certain type of products to support the immune system. So I've been a blending queen for the past week. So I've needed to restock up, but they're making sure they're taking the precautions. They're wearing the headgear, you know, they're covered head to toe, that they're cleaning in between, from the packaging to everything that's there. So you can get from, you know, certain companies, you know, good quality essential oils right now. And so I would recommend, if you know what scent you like, I would start with those. Some of the top ones that I like, of course, is a lavender, because lavender is relaxing. It's kind of the jack of all trades. It hits the trifecta through research of being antiviral, antifungal, antibacterial. So I like that one. Eucalyptus, for a lot of reasons, I would have on hand. So, you know, again, that's antiviral, antibacterial, antifungal. It's antiparasitic. There's scientific studies showing it to be anti-malarial, reading between the lines on that one. but really supporting the respiratory system as well. So I love that. I would pick a fruit. In aromatherapy, there's, I have over 200 oils that I work with. So don't start with 200. You don't need that many. I mean, you could probably get away with 5 to 10 oils max. You can break it down by scent category. So lavender is floral, orange or lemon would be a fruit. So I would pick, one of those or both of those if you really like them. Eucalyptus is camphragous. From the herbal category, herbaceous, I would do probably oregano or thyme because, especially for being immune. Another one that's kind of herbaceous and camphragous together is peppermint. So you'll like this one. There's studies showing that athletes who smell peppermint and cinnamon pre-workout enhance their performance. So I work with some performance coaches and some sports teams to cognitively work with them through blends that strengthen their performance, because we have sports psychology. So I did when I was back in college, I did a little stint on sports psychology. So I thought that was really important because athletes are amazing. I mean, you're right. There's this certain discipline and mentality, and we need that in business as an entrepreneur. We need that same thought process. We don't need to reinvent the wheel. We just have to customize it for what feels right to us. So I look at those performance oils. So your camphragous ones are gonna do that. So is your spices, because cinnamon, ginger, they ignite your fire. They help you get up and go for that. And then the ones that I mentioned, rosemary is great for memory. So I would say look at where you're at. If you need some uplifting, we all need some uplifting and some joy right now. Your fruits are going to be great for that. If you feel very overwhelmed and scattered and your feet are not on the ground, then you need to find some tree oils. Pine, frankincense, spruce, some trees that are going to put your feet on the ground. And then anywhere in between, flowers are going to be very balancing. Your camphragous are going to help create movement. We talked a lot about mindset and motivation. It kind of ignites movement. So those would be the ones that I would look at.
Perfect, thank you. I've been taking notes this whole time, so if I look like I'm not looking at you, it's because I'm furiously trying to type all this stuff up.
Yay!
So I latched on to something you mentioned earlier about how you don't need to necessarily smell something to get the benefits, and that's something my wife and I joke about all the time, because I say that she has a very sensitive nose, and she says, well, your nose is just broken, because quite often she'll come in to a room or something. She's actually so sensitive that sometimes she's like, I can't be here because it's too overwhelming of a scent. Like certain aisles in the grocery store, if it's all the cleaning products or all the whatever, it's just so strong, and I don't even notice. But that also happens like in the house or the fridge or something. She'll open up with, what is that? I'm like, what's wet? And she'll say, can't you smell that? And I'll take a deep inhale and be like, I don't smell anything. And partially that might be because I've always had allergies, and so I might be stuffed up or something. But so I guess a two-part question is, how does it work without having the smell? Is it because you're taking it in either through the nose or through the air or something, so it doesn't matter if you smell the scent, it's just the interaction of the essential oil being diffused in the air, or however you're getting it in? And then the second part is can you speak on how there can be a difference between people that can and can't smell certain things, whether it's a certain scent of itself or just smell in general? Like, is that some kind of a issue or concern, or like, does that not matter?
So when you're taking in a scent, right, you're taking in scent molecules. When you take that, there's an essence that goes in, and then you have this hair-like, the cilia that grabs onto that, and it travels up, and then it connects into these receptor sites like a lock and key. So we're getting into this receptor site that gets up to the olfactory bulb where we're like, oh, I recognize what that is. So even if you are not smelling that, because I work with a lot of people going through chemoradiation, and we know people going through, that devastation or having heavy metal toxicity, they're going to have a decreased sense of smell. People who have been around chemicals, the pest control people, the car mechanics, the hair salons, the nail salons, housekeepers, because they're around these chemicals, it singes that lining and destroys that. So they're going to have a weaker sense of smell. If you have chronic allergies, if you've had chronic infections and viruses, it decreases your sense of smell because there's damage to that area. So that is going to be, a concern at that point. But when you take that scent in, those scent molecules, they're locking in, and it's still activating that physiological, psychological, and biochemical interactions and shifts within the body. Now, a couple things with what you said with sensitivity of smell, because some people do have a heightened sensitivity. So women tend to have a heightened sensitivity over men, first of all. Second of all, it's going to be even more heightened around the menses. So right before their cycle and through the first couple of days of their cycle and maybe through their cycle, they're going to be very sensitive because there's some hormonal changes going on. There's a lot of physiological, obviously, differences between men and women. So hormonally, testosterone, we know, suppresses the immune system. It changes and shifts certain things. So men's sense of smell typically isn't as keen intuitively. It can be trained, but it's not as intuitively as with women. So women, that's why women tend to have more immune issues. Estrogen and estriol and estrone and progesterone, all this changes women. So there's good and bad, with everything. There's going to be those hormone changes. So, it would be an interesting experiment for you to, when it's even more heightened, to go, where are you at in your cycle? And then, just really kind of see where that's at. She just probably is more in tune. I do find when people are more intuitively connected to themselves and, to the environment and to the universe in general, they are going to have a heightened, because our sense of smell, and that is the power of olfaction. It's telling us what's going on. We can learn a lot from animals. Animals have a heightened, look at bloodhounds. It's enormous. They're using scent to say hello and, to mark their territory and to be familiar with their surroundings. It's not crazy that a dog travels 1,000 miles to get back home. They smell their way back home, so there is going to be some physiological difference, to answer your question that way. I'm really going back to that hormone. And, there's going to be certain neurotransmitters, antidepressants, for example. It suppresses a lot of things in the body, and it suppresses scent. So, there's a lot of questions that you have to ask. So when I'm working with my clients, it's not an easy answer. We have to investigate. We have to identify what's going on, identify those culprits. And that's why we customize what we need, because there's certain essential oils that can help a little bit more for certain situations, depending on the person.
So I had a question come in about, since we're inside all the time right now, and whether it's specifically due, for this health crisis or just in general being inside. Because I think, this speaks of most people, they go to their office and they work all day inside the office, whether it's a room or a cubicle or what have you. So right now they're in their house all day long, but quite often we are in a small space all the time. And you mentioned that there was a couple I'm looking at the list of things. I forget which ones you said, but there are certain like antifungal, antimicrobial things. So just either specific to the corona crisis or just in general, do you have any herbs or essential oils that you would recommend for kind of health purposes being in a small or enclosed space?
It's a great question, because when you're doing aromatherapy has a response, right? So if you smell certain scents too much, you might get lightheaded. You might feel nauseous. You might feel different. It doesn't mean you're reacting to that. You're responding to it. If you take too much magnesium, I promise you'll be in the bathroom, right? Too much magnesium, it's a relaxant, it's a laxative. So if you take, 800 milligrams, maybe that's your threshold, you might be fine. But if you take 1,000, you might be in the bathroom. That's a response. Same thing with aromatherapy. So the things that I recommend is, we are in enclosed environment. So there needs to be better ventilation. So I use my diffuser. I'll unplug it and kind of bring it closer. So I have my diffuser, and then, there's water in there as the vessel, and you put your oils, and then that diffuses out. And so I diffuse that period. I have a timer on mine. So many of your ultrasonic diffusers have timers on them. They'll go for 15 minutes, cut off for 15 or 30 minutes, and then go again. Or you can do, 2-hour intervals. So I recommend, don't load up 20 drops in a diffuser. I can put 3 drops in there, and that'll be plenty in my area. Now, in 30 minutes, I might go, I can't smell it anymore. Right, because you have scent adaptation, right? The scent molecules get filled up and you have scent adaptation. That's why you cleanse your palate with the coffee beans, or you walk outside and get some fresh air, and when you come back, you smell that again. So that's kind of where that happens. So I do recommend that, you have it open. You don't leave the door closed and have it going all day. You need to take breaks with that, again, getting some air circulation. Another important note with that is if you have animals like my cat, who's rubbing up on my leg right now, with your animals, you have to be careful because they are more sensitive. So when you breathe in your scents, you process it. Now, even though I said it doesn't go through the spinal cord or digestive tract, you still metabolize that, and it gets excreted through the kidneys. So for people with severe kidney issues, you would not want to use a lot of scent. You want to do very weak dilutions infrequently for that. For animals, particularly with cats, horses, dogs, and llamas, you would treat the same because of their physiology. So we just want to, whatever we would do for ourselves, we want to cut in half. But with cats, you want to cut that in half again. So like a fourth of what we're doing. So that's something to keep in mind if you're diffusing with your animals around, because they can get over toxic. If they start panting or a lot of drool at the mouth or lethargic and can't get up, those are some signs of over toxicity. Need to get them hydrated, and whatnot. But for ourselves, we just ventilate the room. There's times when I do closed room sessions when I'm working on particular health issues. I'll have them diffuse a particular blend I've created for them for 30 minutes, 3 times a day. There's reasons for that. But in general, any of your herbaceous oils, camphoraceous oils, your citrus oils, any of those are going to be great to be diffusing right now. Herbally, we know vitamin C and zinc has been really important. And the interesting link with zinc is anytime there's anosmia, a loss of sense of smell, it usually is connected with a zinc deficiency. So that's something to keep in mind. And then I go back to my core. I'm always working from my core minerals. Minerals kind of create electricity in the body. So we need our minerals. We need to be taking our probiotics. And I like probiotics that are multi-strain because our science shows us a multi-strain is much better. And there's certain strains that are better than others. Enzymes. because when we have germs and viruses and bacterias and anything like that, it has a shell around it, a skeleton or a shell around it that's made of protein. So there's two things that can resuscitate a dying cell, because when cells start dying off and oxidizing, it builds that hard protein shell. So we use that same philosophy. So your enzymes break that down, and your enzymes can get in there and resuscitate and oxygenate that area. So I like the enzymes, and then fats, because you have to have your good essential fatty acids. And I like the combination of omega-3, 6, and 9s to really combust any toxins that are going on. Because what we're trying to do is two things. We're trying to have our immune system defend anything that's coming in, but if it does get in, we need to tackle it. So you got to have defenders and you got to have tacklers. And so your defenders are going to be those core, that I talked about. And then we can bring in the tacklers, your antivirals, dandelion, is a good one, licorice root, things that support the adrenals as well. And then, going back to your vitamins with the vitamin C, echinacea is a big one right now, but, you still have to be careful with that in autoimmune. So you still got to do your due diligence with, who are you and what are your sensitivities, and just cross-reference those.
So a quick follow-up to that, you're mentioning, if you have a cat or a smaller pet, you might, cut it in half and half again. So would things like that apply also, like if you have people who are younger or older, or like babies or infants? So, a lot of people now, the kids are all home with them and everybody's all there. So are there certain things that you either should or shouldn't diffuse, or you should cut it in half or a quarter, or is there any guidelines as far as, like the size or age of people or anything like that?
Yeah, it's a great question. I can't believe I didn't talk about that. With animals that way, you would, babies, infants, children, you want to be careful of as well. So cutting that in half. Elderly, we want to cut that in half because processes have slowed down. We're not producing certain things. There's, hormonal shifts, neurological shifts. So we want to just be mindful, and in aromatherapy, there's dilution ratios that we follow. And so, I have dilution ratios in my book. I have it, in some of my social media and my website. So it's a nice guide. You got to see it sometimes to understand it. But basically, you want to follow just, a minor. So for example, in a 2 ounce, if I'm making up a spray, in a 2 ounce, I might do 20 drops, total drops. So if I'm using 5 essential oils, then I'm only going to do like 4 drops of each, right? In a normal blend. But for children, for elderly people with sensitivities, highly sensitive, they're in a chronic health condition, I'm going to cut that in half or lower, like for cats. And, you don't want to be diffusing around birds. You have to cover their cage, keep it away from them. They cannot handle it. Guinea pigs, hamsters, everybody's got all the, ferrets, they got all their animals out. So we have to keep them safe. So, you would cut that in half. But then at the same token, like if I slept on my neck wrong and it's like really tense and it hurts really bad, I might need to do more than 20 drops. I may need to do 30 drops, but I'm only putting it on one area for a short period of time. So it's not going to be a long-term use. So yeah, there is. And then additionally, you have to know the person. So for example, somebody on blood thinners or taking blood thinners, there's certain herbs and oils that contribute to that, cinnamon being one of them. So for somebody on blood thinners, or they bump their skin, the elderly, they got really thin skin, or people going through chemo radiations have very thin skin and they bump it and they bleed instantly. You would not want to do a lot with cinnamon essential oil, even through inhalation, or any products that had cinnamon in that, because it contributes, ginkgo, is another one, ginseng. Those are natural blood. They have natural blood thinning. Now, if you put cinnamon on your toast in the morning and you just sprinkled a little bit, you probably are going to be okay. We just have to look at the severity. We're talking about, more than like a half a teaspoon of something typically. But I don't want you to say, oh, but Jennifer said that's okay. It's not okay. You have to know the person. I'm just speaking in generalities that way. So you do need to know what is going on, so the contra indications. Rosemary, for example, it creates blood pressure. It creates movement. Sometimes you need heat. It's like homeopathic. You need heat to kick the heat. But sometimes you got to not put any heat in at all. And so that's when we wouldn't do rosemary. We would do like a rosemary verbenone or an ylang-ylang, a flower, that would calm that down. So there are some guidelines. So, aromatherapy is fun. It's easy. I don't want to make it seem intimidating or too, complex, but it is comprehensive. So that's why, having the right training is important before you use it. And I always say you start with yourself. You want to start, using it so you become familiar, so you have a testimony, you have experience when you're sharing that. I'm also the vice president of the National Association of Holistic Aromatherapy. And so our whole premise is awareness and education. You have to be educated because we don't want to be ignorant and arrogant in anything that we do. We share what we know. And if we don't know, that's why we have each other. We collaborate. You have your specialty. I have my specialty. This is where we can create an amazing community. We don't have to have all the answers, but knowing where we can get them, that's really important.
Yeah, I really appreciate that. And yeah, it's very true. Like you were saying, it's a investigation of, I think you talked about, kind of peeling the onion, and it's true. A lot of people on the calls and in our group are some kind of coach, whether it's a health coach or fitness coach or life coach, something. And we all can have that kind of thing going on where it's not a cookie cutter. It's, well, here's what I do. Let me see how it's going to work for you individually. And so it does take some of that time and getting to know them and personalizing it. So but again, that's another layer of it I hadn't thought about, because like my wife and I, she loves dogs, but we don't have one. So I wouldn't even think to ask about pets and how it interacts with different animals. You mentioned the birds and the ferrets and the hamsters and everything else. But if you do have someone that does have a lot of pets or a lot of animals or a lot of kids or an extended family, then of course all those things are going to apply. And so therefore you need to have all that knowledge, whether it applies
You're not always just helping the client, you're helping everybody in their environment. So we have to think bigger of, okay, because a lot of times, like when I wear my aromatherapy diffuser, it's not for me. Like the oils I choose is not for me. It's for the person I'm talking with or the person I'm conversing with. So it's another layer, another dimension that when you're working with people, you also have to inquire about the entire environment that they're in. Who is their team? Who is in their tribe? Because that's where you need to make sure you can balance that out. But it also adds that personability, too, of like, oh my gosh, how's your child doing? How's your animal doing? It makes it more personable. So we're building stronger relationships, because, sense coupled with those memories, it embeds that in. So we remember more and deeper, when something is connected to the sense. So, asking those questions are great.
So I said, I just was asking if on the chat, anyone had any questions, and James said that he has one. So James, why don't you go ahead and jump in? And I see you're unmuted, but I can't hear you.
All right, let me plug in my headphones here.
Okay, now I can hear you now.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yes,
I can.
Okay, perfect. Sorry for the delay. So yeah, Jen, I really appreciate this presentation. It's been super informative for me. And I use some oils already, and I wonder if there are any particular super oils that you recommend. So for example, Shane and I are kind of in the same club as far as like biohacking goes. And one of the oils I've added to my tea every day because I already love Earl Grey tea, but I've been adding bergamot because of its anti-aging kind of indications as well. So I use bergamot. I'm also using copaiba, and I like frankincense. But are there any that are like, oh, this is like one of the best oils, like for kind of everything, or like maybe anti-aging? What are the oils that you're like most excited about?
Okay, so now you're asking me to pick which kid is my favorite.
Right, exactly.
I mean, I look at all of the oils like people. It's like I know 200 people, they have different personalities. And I would choose, it's like if you're putting a football team together, you would need a certain skill set. If you're putting a soccer team together, you would need a certain skill set. If you're putting a rock climbing team together, you would need a certain skill set. So it's hard for me to say that because, it would depend on the purpose. I hear what you're saying. And so, I mean, anti-aging, first of all, you go back and you look at, all right, well, what did the Egyptians use during the mummification process? So frankincense is one of those. Myrrh is another one. So of course, those have, strong, anti-aging, but then you also look at de-stressors. So all of your essential oils, they're all antibacterial and all antioxidant. They're just going to vary in potency. So some are going to be stronger antibacterial, stronger antioxidants. Oxidation is what causes faster aging. So we're looking at those that are not fast oxidizers. So some of your camphors fall into that category, like eucalyptus, lemongrass. So those would be some kind of matching up there. But the vulnerary properties, which is wound healing. So if we're healing something, right? Not only do we want to heal like vanity wise, because vanity doesn't mean much. It just means now you can see what's going on the inside. And if you don't like what you see, now you're willing to do something about it. Mm-hmm. My whole philosophy is may you never know the disease you prevented, because that wasn't a philosophy that I followed in the beginning. So I didn't know to. So I would think, okay, so what is your top 3 things? If anti-aging is important to you, then I would find 3 things that match that. But if, hey, I need to be positive today, then your citrus is going to fall in that category. Bergamot, I think of as like a quick pick-me-up. It's an antidepressant. Lemon is going to be like a flashlight, help you find your way. Orange, so you have bitter orange. So bergamot is kind of more bitter. Your sweet orange is going to be more of adrenal supporting and pancreas supporting. And we hold different emotions in different organs. So when there's pancreatic issues, there's blood sugar issues. We've lost the sweetness in life. So then you would go after your sweet oils. The copaiba, that's going to be very anti-inflammatory. We know when something's anti-inflammatory that it is also going to be anti-aging. So frankincense, Roman chamomile is one of my favorite anti-inflammatories. It was the very first oil I was introduced to. So it's probably always going to be my favorite. Because you have a favorite kid, you just aren't willing to say it. So I'll say it, Roman chamomile.
Awesome.
Is probably because that's what changed my life. I went from being on death's door, 28 medications for pain management, can't remember why I was doing anything, and giving in to dying, surrendering, to, oh my gosh, I had Roman chamomile and apricot oil and applied it to my abdomen area, and it knocked out the IBS and the cramping and the nauseousness, and it like made me think I was myself, even for a moment, like instantly. I mean, it was very powerful. And chamomile is a nurturer and a caretaker. So if you are a caretaker, if you're a nurturer, you don't replenish, you don't take care of yourself, I would say Roman chamomile would be a good choice. So I would look at, what is your top 2 or 3 purposes for using it? You have to ask that question first, because it's hard, like immune wise, of course, eucalyptus and frankincense and oregano are going to be some heavy hitters, but that's a purpose. So I ask you, James, what is your top 2 things like that you want this to do for you?
Yeah, I'm probably looking for something that is an all-around health tonic, right? Like, so the anti-aging component, just something that supports health. So I'm not seeking to kind of treat any particular...
The homeostasis and balance.
Yeah, exactly.
So your flowers.
Okay.
Lavender, geranium, ylang ylang. Rose would be a bit much, I think. But any of your flowers, they're your balancers, they're your harmonizers. That's what's bringing you. So the teeter-totter is just off a little bit. Also your grasses, palmarosa, lemongrass.
Cool. Yeah, I didn't really know that about the flowers. Also, I wonder regarding internal versus topical use. Obviously, some are only appropriate topically. For those that can be taken internally, do you have a preference of inhaling them or applying them topically or taking them internally? Is there an issue with the gut? Maybe things don't always pass through the gut. What's the thought process there?
Oh, that's a loaded question. So the only way I share is I share authentically. So personally, I'm not a huge advocate of internal use.
Okay.
I'm not saying never. I'm just saying you really have to be well versed. Being in the position that I am with with NAHA, we hear a lot. I just have more people reaching out to me. Normally people reach out to us because they want us to fix something, because they didn't pay attention, they didn't follow educational rules, and they want us to fix them. And so one of the things that we're seeing is there are certain companies that promote internal use. First and foremost, let me tell you, I'm not a doctor, I don't diagnose, I don't prescribe, and I don't play one on TV. So if I was to talk internal use with you, I would be practicing medicine without a license.
I see.
So listen to my words, because if you're a coach and you're doing that, you need to be safe, because there's people that are using that and saying and misusing information and misrepresenting information that are causing a black eye to the whole industry. They might not be coming after you, but they're coming after me. They're coming after those of us who've been doing it for a while, who are doing it right, but it's a black eye on the whole industry. So we have to unite and be responsible. I call that aromatherapy responsibly. So thank you for giving me the opportunity to answer that. The second thing with internal use is we're seeing a higher incidence of renal failure, kidney failure, liver failure, and burning and putting holes in the lining of the esophagus because they are not emulsifying that. So your essential oils are fat soluble. They are not water soluble. You cannot put them in water and they emulsify. You have to put it in a fat-based carrier whether that, that's why people put the alcohol in the blends. They're putting it in olive oil, coconut oil, putting it in a fat-based emulsifier first, and then using that. So you have to make sure, because you have receptor sites underneath the skin, and so if we're using it undiluted or we're putting that in, it can cause some damage and irritation. And do you know your kidney function? Do you know your liver function? Do you know the integrity of your gut health? Do you know where your microbiome is right now? Do you have a hiatal hernia? There's a lot of questions, because if you don't know that, then we are not aromatherapy responsibly, by doing that. So if you choose, because I can't tell you what to do, but if you choose to do an internal format, I just encourage you to understand the chemical constituents, to understand anatomy and physiology, to understand the person that you're using that with, including yourself. And then you do it right. Now, have I ever taken it internally? I have. When I'm a Florida girl, I live in humidity. Anytime I go out west, I mean, just, Colorado over to the west, it's very dry for me. And there's times when I've had to do presentations all day long, like I'm speaking all day long, and it's dry and it dries up my throat and I can't speak. I lose my voice. And so I will put either 1 drop of frankincense or 1 drop of sandalwood in honey, a whole teaspoon of honey, emulsify that, mix it up very well, and just do that one time. And that usually gets me some relief. One time at a moment when I need it, not all the time. Right.
Got it.
So that's my 2 cents or more on the whole internal.
Everyone's surprised.
But then also you had asked, what is the best way to use that? And so inhalation has been shown, not only in 1 research study, not 2, but many research studies from now to way back, that olfaction, inhalation is the best way to do that. And I just saw some more research study, and I can't remember the gentleman's name. I know his last name starts with the B, but he was doing research at one of the Harvard studies. But biochemically, when they did analysis on that, smelling it was equivalent to an intravenous format. So it is your sense. It doesn't get processed through the spinal cord or digestive tract. It's immediate. It's non-judgmental, which means it's going right in and it's doing what it needs at its full potential. So the best way to do that is through inhalation, especially right now, because we know the virus is getting in through respiratory, but we also have science backing that the olfactory bulb is your portal for viruses to get in. Let's protect that. Let's strengthen that. When you're smelling and doing inhalation of your pure essential oils, it's strengthening that. So I might be more than what you asked me, but I think it's really important. It's a very important topic.
Yeah.
That I really just encourage everybody to please aromatherapy responsibly with that, and know what you're doing and why you're doing it. Anything you do, you need a purpose. So find out what that purpose is.
Yeah, that was a really helpful response. So thank you. That was very detailed, and I learned a lot there. So that was good. I guess the other question that I have is, you mentioned that people are reaching out to you, and you mentioned that you do some blends. So will you tell us a little bit about the blends that you create? So for example, I'm familiar with thieves oil. So do you do kind of like a thieves that you really enjoy? What are the blends that you create?
Yeah, I mean, I've been doing this for 20 years. And so, I told you the beginning of my story was I was very sick. I went into the local herb shop. She turned out to be an incredible friend. I mean, who says, oh my gosh, you're not feeling well. Why don't you come hang out with me today and I'll serve you tea and you can just be in a healing environment. Like, that's what she did for me. She made me realize, like, somebody cared enough about me. And I did that. And then she's the one who made me the Roman chamomile in my apricot oil. And then I was getting better. And then when her clients would come in, they would tell me who you are, what you're doing. And I did. And then they would ask me, will you make something for me? So before I knew it, I had an aromatherapy business where I made products. So I've made product, and then that turned into an aromatherapy bar. So it was a non-alcoholic bar. So people would come in and they would say, hey, this is my issue. And I would blend, kind of like a aromatherapy pharmacy. I would blend right on the spot and make their custom blends, follow up with them, tell me, how's it working for you? We would tweak it if we needed to. But people were asking some of the same things over and over, like, eczema, respiratory stuff, physiological issues. So some blends kept working over and over. So in my online store, I have over 600 products that I formulate that have worked for my clients in the past. And so, that's there for people to get support and to do that. But I also do custom blending where I ask these questions. We dig a little deeper. We go on this journey of revisiting all these mile markers in your life of why are you where you are today? Who are you today? And who are you supposed to be? Because a lot of times we're operating from a fake personality. We've put up this facade. We've learned how to survive. We're not thriving authentically. And so we have to open those curtains and dig a little deeper. And then I make those blends that really tap into your core. So we strengthen your strengths and we can work on those issues that aren't serving you. For me, I'll overshare because that's the only way you share, you learn through experiences is I did a journaling exercise one time and we had to cut out these pictures in magazines. And then we just had to randomly cut out pictures, what resonated to us. And then we had to put one word theme to them. So if we had to theme all of them in one word, what would it be? Well, mine was abandonment. At that moment, I realized I'm a people pleaser for fear of abandonment. I did not want people to leave me, because I had had that in my life. And so I was people pleasing. So in that moment, I learned, what if those people left? What if? I probably wouldn't be as stressed. It probably would be a good thing. And it would open up the opportunity for me to attract more positive people. That was a huge mind shift for me. Aromatherapy did that for me. It opened me up to accept and to be willing to invite in that opportunity. So we learn stuff about ourselves all the time, but through me asking my series of questions and doing the coaching the way that I do it, I'm able to help you unfold in a very safe environment, non-judgmental environment, that I can create this blend for you. And then we use this blend until it doesn't smell good anymore, or until you're like, it's not doing the same thing for me. That means you've shifted and now we have to retest. And I don't need to smell you to be in front of me. I know my oils well enough. They're my people, they're my tribe. I can translate them into a blend just by talking to you, because I'm matching their soul level with your soul level so that we can bring you into balance, into harmony. So that's the custom blending side of what I do.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
So I'm going to jump in. I apologize for not giving people the 10-minute bell, but we're almost out of time. So I did want to give Jennifer an opportunity to let people know where to go to contact her or to find more information, both on the aromatherapy and the coaching that she offers, but also on her school. So Jennifer, anything that you'd like to say? Either how to contact you, or if you have anything coming up that you'd like to shine a light on.
Thank you so much for this opportunity to talk with you guys. It's been so much fun. I love the questions and just being able to dive into aromatherapy. It's such an important modality. It's one tool that you can have in your toolbox, but now oh my gosh, this whole world of possibility. So you can reach me at jensense.com. That's where my store is. That's where my custom blending, my coaching is. I do have an online certification, so it is approved through the National Association of Holistic Aromatherapy. So I have 3 programs: holistic aromatherapy, if you just want to dabble; professional aromatherapy, if you want to integrate that into a current profession; and then the clinical, which really takes it more, the classes that are in that include more advanced pathophysiology, integumentary skincare type, and emotional healing is in that clinical aspect. And then I have some master classes, just individual ones. Like I have a really good one that I love that I'm so proud of, the phytoaromatherapy for gastrointestinal health. A lot of science in there that really drives everything because, the root of all disease, as Hippocrates taught us, is inflammation in the gut. So we really have to focus on that for mindset too. And then on my social media, the Facebook, the Instagram is at Jen Sense. I'm on LinkedIn under my name, Jennifer Pressimone. And then, if you have any questions, you can click on the contact bar and you can get back to me that way. I also have upcoming events that are listed there. And then, for everybody who's here with us, I did want to offer, I have my book that I'm so proud of and that I love, the Holistic Aromatherapy Comprehensive Guide. So I profile, it's non-brand affiliated because I wanted this to reach the masses. And so I talk about 109 different essential oils, like 45 to 50 different carriers. And I'm teaching you about the personality of the oil. What is it going to do physically, mentally, emotionally? What chakra does it work on? The chemistry behind it for those chemistry buffs that are out there. And just really understanding that, but then really connecting that to how do we use it for head, heart, and gut? How do we use it to balance different emotions? How do we use it in conjunction with the circadian rhythm? And then I've got charts and everything in there too. So I have that's on sale right now in my shop at jensense.com/shop. And then if you go to the website that I have listed here, this is the school. I didn't have its own landing page yet. So if you go to courses.jensense.com/free training, and you just register there, that puts you on my newsletter, my email list. But there is a free class there, free training right now on aromatherapy for the immune system, where I dive in very deep into the whole immune system and specifics with the essential oils, the herbs, what happens when it's broken, how do you know that it's broken, and what you can do to put it back together. So I have those resources available to you guys.
I'd like to thank Jen so much for her expertise. It connected with me more than I thought it would, and it showed me the layers of addition that could come into even the things we're already doing. I'm really excited to check out your school as well. So thank you so much. And anyone who's listening after this, I hope you enjoy the notes and the audio in the email. Everyone have a great night, and I'll speak to you all soon.
Hi, I'm Shane Borza, a climber, creator, and coach, and I want you to build the skill of health and fitness. My new course is a priceless gift to you, and it's available exclusively on PonoQuest.com. That's P-O-N-O Quest.com. Build the Skill is a minimalistic, functional, real-world fitness program which can help you to move better and get stronger faster. I can't wait for you to check it out, and when you do, please let me know how it helps you. That's Build the Skill at PonoQuest.com. Thank you for joining us on this episode of the Solve Network. As a reminder, these calls are held live on the first and third Thursday of each month. If you'd like to join us as either a listener or guest expert, please contact me at shaneborza.com. On behalf of my co-founder, Benjamin Goss, we're glad you are a part of the network and hope you are finding solutions. If you need solutions, please reach out.